You're in this relationship where you should feel good, but you don't. You're always on edge. There's a tightness in your stomach. You're always worried about upsetting this other person, saying the
Yes,
right thing. I mean, that's just a
yes.
horrible way to exist.
Did you push record?
Thanks so much for tuning into our second act with Paige and Silka.
For your second act of life. Hey there, Silka.
Hello, Paige. Paige, today we're back talking love and relationships after 50. And as you know, I say a lot, I try to stay on top of what's happening out there. You know, what are some of the questions? What are some interesting trends in relationships? And there was an article, Google actually just released their stats on the most searched questions when it comes to love and relationships, sex and relationships. And two of them I thought were incredibly interesting and so important to discuss. And that is, what is ghosting? It's actually up this year 421%. And another is, what is gaslighting? Up 416% this year. So on this segment, we'll do two segments. On this one, I would like to talk about gaslighting, which is, well, a toxic, one of the most toxic relationship behaviors. Paige, tell it, what is gaslighting and why is it so dangerous?
It's very dangerous, and it happens a lot in personal relationships, in career. So I wrote down a few things so I wouldn't forget. So gaslighting is when there's a manipulator slash person that they're trying to get the other person to actually question their own reality. So just hearing that makes me cringe.
Right.
When someone is manipulating another person, where the other person starts to think, oh my God, am I remembering this right? Am I saying crazy things? Gosh, is it all me? Boy, there's something must be wrong with me. Like you're constantly looking at yourself thinking, oh my gosh, how screwed up am I? I must really have some issues. Gosh, I must really be the one that's out of whack in this relationship. So it's a really scary thing. And personally, I see it happen a lot. And it happens a lot. The foundation of it is total control. Total control over the relationship, over the conversation, over the situation, over the other person. That's what I believe it comes down to.
Yeah. Well, if you're wondering why it's called gaslighting, I should have said that up front. It's actually based on a movie, an early 1944 movie where the manipulator was manipulating his wife to get her to be committed so he could take her inheritance. And I mean, it's just a horrible situation. It's a bit to the extreme, but then again, not really. And I think what's so interesting about this and why it's up so much this year, I'm wondering, because we're, thrown together in situations that are stressful anyway, and where this sort of behavior takes over. I mean, that's kind of a scary thing.
Yeah, well, with the pandemic, you're spending more time with your significant other. So the gaslighting, the manipulation that probably has already been occurring, maybe there's been more distractions. You haven't been with the other person that much. But when you're with the other person constantly, there's not a lot of places to run. There's not as many distractions. You're starting to see it more and more. And you're starting to question yourself more and more and question your reality on life, on relationships, on your thoughts, on just about everything, because that person wants you to question everything. That person wants you to think you're wrong all the time. You're not remembering correctly all the time. And that person, the manipulator, withholds information too and says, oh, I told you that, when they never told you that. So there's all these different pieces. And I think I jotted down just a few things to kind of pay attention to if you want me to get to that piece.
Yeah, no, please. I was just going to say, what are some red flags that you're in this situation?
Okay, so some of the things I wrote down, I talked about one already, is, when the manipulator is holding information, they're refusing to listen or say that they understand as well, because they don't want to understand. Make sense? They
Yeah.
don't want to understand, but they want you to think that you're not correct. So they withhold information. Um, Countering, they always say things like, well, that wasn't correct. That memory wasn't correct. That event wasn't correct. What, where's your mind? You're not remembering these things. I remember everything really, really well. You always have a little bit of a problem of remembering things. It's another key. Another one is blocking. This is when the manipulator changes the subject or questions the other person's thinking. So if they don't want to go where you go, if you're someone who sees very clearly, wait a minute, I'm asking you some questions now, and they divert and they want to go over here, and then they question your question, again, they are just avoiding, they are denying, they don't want you to have any power, they don't want you to have any insight, and they don't want you to trust your inner knowing. Another thing is, trivializing, minimizing what you think, what you say, what's important to you, tossing it on the side to where you start to get angry and think, well, maybe that isn't that important. Maybe what I think is important is not important. You're continually questioning yourself in every area. And lastly, the forgetting, the denial, where the manipulator hasn't forgotten, but they're going to say, oh, they forgot, or they firmly, firmly deny all the time and firmly avoid. Now, you can say that sometimes, well, sometimes my significant other does maybe one or two of those things, but when you put all of them together, this is gaslighting because these things are occurring all the time. So you might feel like at one point in this relationship, you had a bright light and you were big, and now you feel like your light is this small and you feel this small.
Well, and from what I've read, you're in this relationship where you should feel good, but you don't. You're always
Yes.
feeling, you're always on edge. There's a tightness in your
Yes.
stomach. You're always worried about upsetting this other person, saying the
Yes.
right thing. I mean, that's just a
Yes.
horrible way to exist.
Yeah, you walk on eggshells, but the biggest thing that's really what I call a mind, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, um, is you start to question you and everything about you. And that's the quickest way of somebody controlling you. And that's the quickest way of giving your power over to someone else. And what happens is it starts out very subtle and very seductively, where you might not notice it as much. And then in time, it keeps happening, happening, happening. So it's like 1 minute it's very seductive and subtle, and the next minute, wow, it is just in your face constantly because it's a buildup. And like we said, being in the pandemic, you might be with this person a heck of a lot more. You might have thought before, yeah, I saw these things, but most people want to deny it and avoid it and kind of go, oh, it's no big deal. You go off to work, you go off with your friends, you have your distractions, so you're not around it all the time. But bottom line is, it's about control, it's about manipulation, it's about somebody taking you over mind, body, soul, all of it.
Yeah. Well, and what comes to mind is what kind of a person does that? and
Well,
it, go ahead.
well, think of it. It has to do with control. So, was it done to them when they were a child? Were there multiple traumas in their life? Is this part of the diagnosis in their past as well too? I mean, we can go, we can talk why.
Right.
And the thing is, if this is occurring for you, you got to pay attention and you got to get out of it.
Well, how do you
Because what
get out of
happens,
it? How do you get out of it?
well, you know what? Here's the thing. You have to constantly say to yourself, this is not me. Here are all the signs and symptoms which we gave you, and then how many of them, if it's all of them and if it's consistently occurring, pay attention to it. And then if you need to talk to a therapist about this, get support. Talk to friends, colleagues, family, therapists to get support. You got to devise a strategy and a plan of how to get out of this. Because the minute you start to take steps to get out of this, you're going to be told that you're crazy. There's no need to get out of this. You're making things up. You're the one creating the problem. And then you turn into feeling like the victim. So it's really about finding your inner power, finding your inner knowing, trusting all of that, having the support systems around you, validating what you're living, what you're hearing, what you're seeing. So you know, okay, I'm going to have all of this in my support, in my, back pocket, so I can move forward.
Yeah. Well, we hope that we raise some awareness here
Yeah.
because I mean, you hear this. I was just kind of blown away that this is such a huge, a trending topic. So if this is happening to you, if what we've discussed, you're saying, oh my gosh, I can identify with this. You are not alone.
No,
There
not at
are
all.
millions of people searching for this.
Yeah.
Get help. Paige, anything? I mean, we're done to the end of our segment. Any last words on this?
Just know this. Always, always trust your inner knowing. And don't ever let anybody take your empowerment and your inner knowing away from you. Always. So pay attention to the signs and symptoms of it. Notice if it's happening to you. Get help, get support, and know that you're not crazy. And know that this is not the life that you want to live. Your life is supposed to be about being big, having your light shine. And if it's not big and it's almost out, get out.
Yeah, I actually just I don't want to make this any longer than it needs to be, but I'm thinking of somebody. I'm observing a relationship like this, and there are good things, and I think that's what keeps people there. The little good things, hoping to get those back. I hope we raise some awareness. If this is you, search for some answers, get some help because you deserve a whole lot more than this. Paige, thank you so much. And we'll come back on our next segment talking about ghosting, another huge trending topic. So we'll see you next time on Our Second Act with Paige and Silka.
For your second act of life.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you have questions or a particular idea about a topic that you'd like to hear us cover, please visit our website, secondact.tv. We have a little suggestion box in the upper right-hand corner of our site. Just click on that, send us an email. We'd love to hear from you. See you next time.